Hello, everybody, and welcome to Champagne Sundays with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Well, Viva Variety, today's show is all about travel and history, heart health, and public speaking. You know how we're all nervous about getting up in front of a room of people.
Yeah, and you know, imagining them naked does not help.
No,
it's about the worst thing.
No, we don't want to see the nakedness. No,
unless they got those little socks on that we were watching. Something.
No, not everybody fits a sock anyway.
Yeah.
From Ponce de Leon's Fountain of Youth at the Archaeological Park to St. Augustine's Lighthouse and Maritime Museum, all kinds of food, human hair exhibits. There's a lot going on in St. Augustine in Florida. It's actually the nation's oldest city, and it rivals the Thanksgiving history of Plymouth Rock.
I didn't know that until
this city
just now.
Apparently is like a series of history firsts in this. Well, obviously, if it's the oldest city. You know, when you always think about the oldest city is going to be back east. That's
what I would have thought.
But no. And it's got Cuba history connected, Spanish history, all kinds of good stuff. So we're going to learn all about St. Augustine with travel writer Debbie Stone, the fire monkey we like to call her, since she got that name ever since she went to Bhutan. But she's going to talk about her recent travel adventures over there.
Cool.
So very excited because apparently a lot of good food.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, a lot. Florida's got good food. We know we used to live there, and now we'd have to do extra hiking. Speaking of that, Dr. Jackie Ubani, she is the author of Women and Heart Disease, A Real Story. She talks about the signs and symptoms of a woman having a heart attack. And heart disease is the number one killer of women in the U.S. That is including lung and breast cancer combined. And the signs of a woman having a heart attack are completely different than Fred Sanford.
I'm coming.
I know, the big, dramatic heart attack that a man has versus a woman. A woman, a lot of times, they don't even know they're having a heart attack.
I wonder why it's different.
Yeah, we're different.
Well, I know that, but our hearts are not that different.
Yeah, but apparently, we get really tired, all these different things. And,
yeah.
And we think, normally we are. So anyway, Dr. Jackie was scheduled to be on the show, but she got called to be on call. So that's what happens with the doctor.
Yes.
So anyway, I did get an interview in with her and record it for today's show. So, and she was like, it's a good month to do it. It's Heart Month, Heart Disease Awareness Month, and, Valentine's Day is coming up, and because that has to do with the heart. Yeah. So she talks about that.
Oh.
Can you have a heart attack over a broken heart?
Oh, no.
Yeah. So
please don't.
It's a great conversation.
Don't do that.
Then public speaking coach Lisa Braithwaite is joining us to talk about her book, Presenting for Humans, Insight for Speakers on Ditching Perfection and Creating Connection. Great title, and it really goes with her book. It's one of the most fun books I've ever read that has anything to do with business, and it's just fun. I mean, she makes presenting or doing any kind of public speaking fun. It's like ditch the fear, have some fun, and if you're having fun, your audience is going to be having fun too.
It is a scary, scary thing, as we know.
Well, she compares it to, being a tattoo artist too. And she gets advice from drag queens.
I think it's as bad as going to the dentist.
This is going to be such a cool show. So happy Super Bowl Sunday, everybody. It's the day where men run around in tights. It is February 4th, 2018.
And a not round ball.
But it's also National Homemade Soup Day. So, with this big flu epidemic going around, I say, make some soup. Get the crock pot on it.
I say put a little whiskey in it.
Oh, not in your soup, no.
Yeah, come on.
No.
It's a toddy fruit vegetables.
No. You can do it with your barley.
Barley?
Yeah, barley soup. You can.
Who eats barley?
You used to.
I know. In soup.
You shouldn't be putting whiskey in soup.
Okay.
Well, maybe with potato soup.
See?
There's something.
You
There's
could be
something.
wrong there.
I don't know. But, hey, everybody, you're listening to Big Blend Radio's Champagne Sundays variety show. Yeah, it's Champagne today. We're streaming live from Tucson, Arizona. We're your hosts, Nancy Reed and Lisa Smith. We're the crazy mother-daughter travel team and publishers of the digital interactive Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. That's our variety publication. You can get it at blendradioandtv.com. And we've got good soup recipes and other things with whiskey in there, too. And we've also got Parks and Travel magazine, and the new February-March issue is out now. Go check it out at nationalparktraveling.com. In fact, Debbie's got a great story there about Las Vegas, New Mexico, not Nevada. Apparently, it's the original one.
I got stories about Las Vegas
I know
Nevada.
You do. Okay. But before we get started and get Debbie on the show, in true Champagne Sundays tradition, it is time to make a toast, and this is a family tradition of looking at the good. So, Nancy, are you ready?
Yes.
So, what is your toast today?
Well, I'm going to toast to, in 1966, the Rolling Stones released 19 Nervous Breakdown. And you know, I love that song. Everybody's had a few nervous breakdowns, if you want to look at it that way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit of, oh no, what's going to happen? So that, and plus there's a really interesting story about Jimmy Buffett got kicked out of his courtside seat at a basketball game between the Miami Heat, which is his team, like he loves that team, against the New York Knicks. And apparently he yelled at the referee and said his calls was like full of BS. I can't say the word, I guess. Well, I could. But he got kicked out because the referee didn't know who he was. And when he came over to kick him out, he said, "You're swearing in front of this young boy over here," which happened to be Jimmy Buffett's son. But the referee didn't get who he was. He kicked him out. So Jimmy Buffett went down and sat with the team instead and watched the game, and everybody was calling the referee, asking him, "Are you a parrot head?" And then he wanted to kick everybody out because he didn't know what a parrot head was. So there you go. I think that's a little bit of music trivia mixed with a little bit of sports. But it does beg the question, if you swear at a game, does the referee have the whatever to kick you out?
I think that it doesn't matter if you're Jimmy Buffett or not.
No, I know.
That would be my
Apparently
first thing.
It didn't because he wasn't recognized by
but
the
I
referee.
think but isn't there something against that in public?
I don't know.
I don't know. I better watch my mouth.
But I do know that a lot of people swear during sports.
Well, that's it. And a lot of people end up in, I think that's why Dr. Jackie's on call today. A lot of people end up in the hospital, the ER, not from getting excited about running around, and playing football of the day of the Super Bowl. You know how everybody's like, oh, let's go throw it around and kick it around. It's from jumping off the couch at the game and pulling their back and hurting themselves. That's why so many people end up in the ER on Super Bowl Sunday.
Maybe they shouldn't sit on the
I don't know, but they get all excited and they jump up, and they haven't jumped up for years, and then, there you go.
At least for 1 year, they haven't jumped up.
Well, I'm toasting to the iconic saguaro cactus. It is an icon of the Sonoran Desert here in Tucson. And yesterday, Nancy and I have been cooped up with computer stuff for the last two months, making some publication changes and all kinds of good stuff. And finally, we got out and took a nice champagne hike yesterday through Saguaro National Park. We started on one trail, and eventually I think we did 3 or 4 different trails.
Yeah,
and one
we
trail,
got misplaced.
One trail we went down, kind of a three-mile detour, just to kind of give you an idea of how the day went. But it was beautiful. The weather was perfect. And just to, we have saguaro cactus all throughout our neighborhoods here in Tucson, but just to get out in their complete natural protected environment just was euphoric to me. On the left, as we were hiking on the first trail, the Esperanza Trail, you could see the sun rising, and to the right of us, the moon was up there. I mean, that super moon is up there, and it's so beautiful. But seeing these beautiful, just to walk through this ancient, forest of saguaros, literally, it's like a hallway of saguaros. It's incredible. And I was looking up some information about saguaros, and I thought they were the largest cactus, but they are the largest cactus of here in the United States. But there are larger ones in South America, all related, South America and also in Mexico. But they usually get their arms. Some of them don't have an arm, but they get their arms only after growing about 15 feet tall, only, and when they're around 75 years old. So when you see all those arms, you know that those, cactus are over 75 years old. It's pretty old. The outside of the skin is really smooth of the saguaro, right? But
except for the
they have those pleated those pleats. Of course, you have the thorns. But the pleats allow the saguaro to expand as it absorbs water. So that's why you always see them like really those big crevices inside on the skin, on the actual saguaro. Do you know how much water a saguaro can hold?
No, I don't.
A ton.
Wow.
Up to a ton of water. That's incredible. So that's why, they can manage through droughts and things like that. On average, a saguaro has about 5 arms and will go up to 30 feet tall. And according to the National Park Service, the tallest saguaro that we know right now is about 78 feet tall, and it was probably over 200 years old. Yet they only have like one taproot that goes 3 feet long. It's amazing.
So how did they get that much water?
Through the monsoon season and stuff, so they store it up. It's like they have their own rain barrel going on. So it's pretty interesting.
That's why they have barrel cactus around them.
Now, the formal name, it's saguaro, which is an Indian word, right? The formal name is Carnegie, I don't know if I'm saying Carnegie higanti, which is actually named for Andrew Carnegie. Who knew about that? I have no idea how his name got attached to it, but it did.
Well, maybe he was one of the first people to see one.
Maybe.
No, can't be.
I don't know. No, the Indians. But anyway, that's what the formal name, I don't know, maybe because it's so big, I don't know.
Maybe they ran out of buildings.
I don't know. But anyway, let's learn about St. Augustine now. We're going to get Debbie Stone on the phone, so take a listen. Travel and lifestyle writer Deborah Stone is back on Big Blend Radio today on our Champagne Sunday show, so I'm looking forward to her champagne toast. She's joining us to talk about her adventures in historic St. Augustine, Florida. It's the oldest city in America. Now, she's got in her article that's up on nationalparktraveling.com. It's going to be featured in the April-May issue of Parks and Travel magazine. Apparently, she saw human hair art, lighthouses, pirate history, historic national monuments, maritime history, and all kinds of good food. And she went to the Fountain of Youth. She saw dolphins, went on a nature excursion. She had a lot of chocolate, cocktails, all kinds of good stuff. And she stayed in a luxury like lodging, historic lodging.
Do you get to drink at the Fountain of Youth, or you just get to look
I
at
think
it?
she tried, or she did, but we'll find out what happened. So everybody, again, you can go to nationalparktraveling.com, just type in St. Augustine, and you'll find it there. Debbie is a regular Big Blend expert contributor, and you can see her expert page with links to our articles and interviews. Just go to blendradioandtv.com. Fire Monkey, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, ladies. How are you? I'm doing well. And speaking of that, you were asking me about the Fountain of Youth, or mentioning that. The Fountain of Youth, I did partake of the waters. Unfortunately, my wrinkles and my crow's feet are still there. So I didn't have any luck with the Fountain of Youth. I don't know if anybody else has stories about success with the Fountain of Youth, but for me, no, it was not. Although I really do think the Fountain of Youth, the archaeological park in St. Augustine, is absolutely fascinating. It's really, you were mentioning how it is a place of firsts, and it really is, because it goes back several centuries, and is the original site and the first successful European settlement in the United States. In fact, St. Augustine celebrated its 450th anniversary, being the longest continental occupied European settlement in the U.S., and they celebrated that back in September, I believe, of 2015. So It really is a place of first. It is where they had the first Christian church was built there in the United States. It really was this settlement. You were talking about Plymouth Rock, and really it was settled, 55 years before the Pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock.
So this would be the Portuguese or the Spanish?
The Spanish, yeah, it was Spanish. It was founded by a man named Pedro Menendez de Aviles, who came there, and a Spanish descent, and they had the first documented Thanksgiving feast there between the Europeans and the Native Americans. And it is, I found it was interesting, it is Florida's oldest attraction. They have these guest books that have been signed that go back to, the mid-1800s, which I thought was really interesting. And so there are exhibits, there are presentations. You can look at the archaeological research. They have nautical traditions there. They have weapons demonstrations. And, of course, you can, still drink from the waters and hope for the best.
I love this. I want to give everybody the website for St. Augustine if you're going to plan a trip there. It's floridashistoriccoast.com. It's a great way to follow along with what Debbie's talking about.
So, and also, they corrected me when I went down there. It is St. Augustine is how it's St. Augustine is how it's pronounced.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so they corrected me, so I'm going to correct you.
Well, thank you, Fire Monkey.
So maybe when you drink the water, it makes you younger on the inside, instead of on the outside.
It takes the wrinkles out of your intestines?
Yeah.
Well, it might make you young at heart.
Or young in spirit or whatever. I know that Ponce de Leon, he had heard about some sort of, water that, gave back youth to people, and he was in search of it, but, and he was actually very obsessed with it as well. But it sure was a tantalizing motivation for me to think, maybe if I drink from this, I won't need any of those creams and moisturizers that I use.
Oh, he was probably thinking about getting rich.
I know.
I mean, men have beards and sideburns and mustache, so you don't hardly see any wrinkles.
Here we go. But what's interesting? On the water side of it, you talk about some of the historic buildings and the college there, and then it was Mr. Flagler. Am I going to say his name right?
Henry Flagler.
And it was interesting because you were talking about, he co-founded Standard Oil, and I remember in South Africa, Standard Oil was part of where you got your gas, or petrol, as we said back then. And there, remember, it was a Standard Oil, and there was a Standard Bank, and I think that's also on the British side. But you were talking about some of the hotels, and we'll talk a little bit further about that. But there was like a sulfur spa there, like where you could go in in a sulfur bath, and then like one of the places, was at the Leitner Museum that was once the Alcazar Hotel, not Alcatraz, which I was about to say, that had the largest indoor swimming pool. Oh, so that was all at the Alcazar Hotel. So the baths, the sulfur baths, did they create those, or was that a natural occurrence?
That's a good question. I don't really know the answer to that. I don't know if there actually were, springs there that they actually could use. I didn't hear in depth about that, and I didn't hear, whether there were actual springs. I do know that St. Augustine was a place back then that people went for their health, because of the weather. And so they had a lot of people from, the Northeast and the colder climates. They would come down there for their health. But this hotel that Flagler College used to be, that Flagler started, was this really upscale, exclusive resort property that really where the wealthy came to play, and also presidents came to stay, and was designed in this like Spanish Renaissance style, and it has all these like themes to it too, which are interesting. So whether it's nautical or a Spanish theme, or has religious icons and the lion, and so you're going to notice all these, flags and coats of arms and frogs and turtles and ships and dates of explorations. And the main lobby is just, you walk in and it's just whoa, it's beautiful with these oak pillars, this dome ceiling that's has been painted in carrot gold leaf, and there are floors that have mosaics. The funny trivia about that is you can look down, and our guide was saying, see if you can find any imperfections in the tile. So we're all looking, and all of a sudden we do find them, and she says, those are made on purpose. And we inquired why, and she said, well, Flagler believed that only God is perfect, and so he wanted to create these imperfections. And I thought that was a very interesting detail about that. And then you walk into the ballroom, which is now the college's dining hall, and there's these incredibly beautiful Tiffany windows, and then there's Tiffany chandeliers in the Flagler room. That this is an interesting story about the Flagler room, which is a beautiful private room, and it was once called the ladies' parlor because when they checked in, the women would go to have tea in the ladies' parlor. The men would stay out of that area, and they would, do the payment arrangements. And the idea was that the ladies, were too weak. The women were, had this weak constitution or frail constitution. They would faint if they were privy to any money talk, so to speak. So they had this very, heavy door where you couldn't hear anything. And so I thought that was fascinating. But
can I
other
just say,
fascinating
dude,
point, yes,
that's just wrong.
If they were going to faint, it would be more over tight corsets and humidity.
Yeah,
that's probably it. But they had this belief then that they were just too faint, too weak to their constitutions to handle the money talk. And the other funny thing when you go in this room is the guide will tell you, look at these two portraits. There's a portrait of Henry and there's a portrait of his wife Mary. And she says, notice that Henry looks fairly youthful and has no wrinkles when he was much older than her by, many years. Mary, though, has Henry's wrinkles because he gave them to her because he didn't want to appear old.
Seriously, did he have a beard and mustache and sideburns?
No, I mean,
and bushy eyebrows.
Oh my gosh!
She looks older than him, and in the fact, the reality is that she was, I don't know, I at least 20 years younger than him, whatever it is. But he made the painter put in wrinkles on Mary's portrait, which I thought was hysterical.
Okay, so can we just say I'm really glad that we are now in 2018, even though we still have a long way to go as women. Not us, but like the behavior, like how I'm just saying we still have a very long way to go, and but we've taken some big strides from that point of view. That's crazy. Do you know that why there's the fire screens? Why they're really there? It's for when, like in old history times, it's so that women's makeup wouldn't melt because they were using wax back in the day and in their hair and on their face. So like if they're sitting there doing embroidery, so that they wouldn't melt, so that their husbands wouldn't see their face melt. This is pre-Botox time. We learned this in a presentation in Louisiana.
Those little curly cues of hair were really made from horsehair, not their own hair. I think that's funny.
Yeah.
So you waxed your horsehair to your face,
gelatin head,
and then you would be embroidering, and one of them would just fall off.
Oh my gosh. I know. I want to back up a little bit because I'm very excited. You know how we love our national park units, and we're on our quest to visit and cover 417 national park units, all of them being, part of our National Park Service. And you got to go to two. One of them did get, you were saying in your article, hit by Hurricane Irma. And I remember, during the hurricane, St. Augustine being on the news going, no,
Augustine.
No. Augustine. Oh, my gosh. Okay. And we lived in Florida. Are you kidding me? I wasn't that far away from St. Augustine to get this wrong, but apparently I am. So you went to Castillo de San Marcos, which is it's a fort, really, right?
Right. It's the nation's oldest masonry fortress, I think, dating back to 1695, and it is a national monument, and it is available to tour. It is fascinating. It's this incredibly fortified, strong-looking place that has a dry moat around it, which they used. The Spanish, I believe, used it for keeping their animals. And then there's, you walk up to it. There's a drawbridge. There's this big, heavy door. It really was a military stronghold. It also was a refuge for the townspeople to come when they were under attack. And so there, you walk into the various rooms. There's several exhibits about the design, several exhibits about, where did the guards stay, where was the ammunition kept. There's a chapel where the priest used to conduct mass. There's a room where the British troops moved into when they came to Spain after Spain gave Florida to Great Britain in exchange for Havana, Cuba. And then you can go up to the tops of the bastions. You can look out on the waters of the bay, and you can kind of, understand. They stood up there. They watched over the area. They, during this a very turbulent time in history, and so. Thankfully, it's there. It's wonderfully kept up. They have park rangers who give talks and tours. They do demonstrations. It's really such a wonderful monument. Really worthwhile seeing.
Awesome. So has that moat always been dry? Or is it just dry now?
Well, they kept it dry for animals. They could open it up supposedly if they wanted water in it, which means that if they were under attack, probably they could put water in there. But they typically kept it dry. Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And then the other monuments that you had mentioned, Fort Matanzas, is there as well. I didn't unfortunately get to go there because, as we said, it was hit by Irma, and so far hasn't been open yet. You can go to the surrounding grounds and the visitor center, but you can't actually go to the fort. The last time I looked, hopefully that will change as they restore it and get everything up to snuff, so to speak.
I'm really glad that you went to St. Augustine, because, but after the hurricane, because I think this is, it's always hard to get the news of what's open and ready for visitors to come back again. So I really love that you went there, and the article and having this conversation so people know to continue frequenting these areas. It's just like after the fires, in the West, in California, Montana, and all these areas.
Right.
And it's I'm hoping, we've already had wildfires out here in southern Arizona, real close to us. And I just, I want people to know not to just close your doors to revisiting, but sometimes there's times not to visit, but to go back to your favorite places or still go there and support them because, these communities, because it's one of the ways to help an economy get back on its feet and get back into operation and jobs. So I'm really glad you went there.
Absolutely. And I always tell people, before you go anywhere, check a website, do your due diligence in terms of your research and see, whether something is open, because, there are also other reasons why places are closed at certain times during the year. And it's disappointing for visitors if they come and they've been setting their hopes and sights on seeing something and it's closed. So if you know ahead of time, you can, avoid that disappointment,
It's like government shutdown. It was like what was open, what was closed. When we were on our tour of national parks and there was a government shutdown, there were people flying in for weddings in Yosemite, and and it was sad. Yosemite just went through a huge wildfire, and then we went and made a detour to go up there right after, and then the shutdown, and it's like, oh man, and then it was like, hey, everybody, it's open, come on. It's like,
Well, and then also we have to say, especially in that area where what the press was saying was totally really blown out of proportion as to the damage that you could go to Yellowstone and have a really
Yosemite,
good time. Yosemite, and have a good time and not see any burned areas at all. And the way the press talked about it is the whole place burned down.
Yeah.
So it's worthwhile going to, at least at the very least, going to the Park Service website that will tell you the truth. If
absolutely.
Just don't take everything.
Do your diligence. Yeah.
Go to the Visitor Bureau websites. Go to the Chamber of Commerce. Call them if you need be. But I'm really glad. That's the thing too about having these communities. If something has happened where a park has to be closed, go visit the communities themselves.
Right.
And St. Augustine, definitely. I mean, it seems like you had a blast. I mean, food.
Oh, it's a marvelous town. So charming, historical, a food haven. art. I was extremely impressed with the town. It is so worthy of a visit. It really is in itself a destination, and not to mention that there are lots of beaches around the area and also natural areas, and so people can come for a variety of reasons. But it really is, being the nation's oldest city, it really is something to see, and very exciting and fascinating.
And now, Leitner Museum. So this is interesting because do you think American pickers would enjoy going there? It's kind of like started with someone similar to that, right? Otto Leitner, he was into collecting, right?
Yeah, he was from Chicago, and he had this quote that everyone should have a hobby and everyone should collect something. And so back in the 1930s, when things were hard hit in Chicago, and mansions, people were selling their stuff or giving away their stuff, he went and collected quite a lot of wonderful treasures. And then when his possessions outgrew his home in Chicago, which was like almost a museum, he had come to Florida for health reasons, and he noticed the Alcazar Hotel was vacant, and so he bought it to put his collections in. And so it is the Leitner Museum. It's a wonderful place, another historical structure as well, but lots of different galleries with artwork, with antiques, with curios. There's mummies and shrunken heads, and you were talking about human hair, which is made into, human hair art, which has been made into, jewelry, and, all sorts of wonderful things, Tiffany and art paintings, furniture. I was there when they happened to have this wonderful exhibit. It is left the Leitner, but it was the Dressing Downton, Changing Fashion for Changing Times, having to deal with the wonderful costuming that was awarded so many, distinctions for the series, for the long-running series for Downton Abbey. And so they put these costumes up in these wonderful vignettes using Leitner's, furniture and objects, and it was probably one of the best exhibits I've seen. I was a big fan of Downton Abbey, so this was particularly fun for me to see that. And it goes through all the eras, the 1912, the year the Titanic sank, and then it goes up until the Jazz Age, and kind of the flapper style costuming, and it was wonderfully done. And the museum is just a real treasure, I think. There's also this really cool restaurant in where it used to be this big swimming pool, so they have this wonderful restaurant in there, the Alcazar Cafe, and it's a real treat to go in there. You really feel like you're transferred back in time. It's wonderful.
Shrunken heads, that's crazy. And mummies, I love mummies. I remember seeing the one shrink heads. I know, but that was a thing back in the day. They
yes, it was.
I don't know, put them in a jar of alcohol, but it's like, hey, we want to make a miniature head. Why not? But the mummies. Remember,
I thought the pygmies did that.
I think they're just little. I don't know.
Little people heads? What?
I don't know. Don't start me. But the mummy thing in Pretoria, South Africa, we went into this museum and you could see the mummy's toe.
Yeah.
And to this day, it's like it's one of the top 10 things I've ever seen in my life is the mummy's toe.
And it wasn't pink either.
No, it was pretty gnarly. Did you see anything did you see any body parts outside of the mummy wrapping?
They're pretty much wrapped up. I've seen a lot of mummies also in various parts in Egypt and different places. But they became things like that, and shrunken heads and things like that became collector's items for various individuals with eccentric collecting habits, so to speak. And so the fact that they're now in museums and people can see them is quite interesting, and also to understand that is somewhat of a an art form in some ways that people look at, but it is something that is collectible. And back then, a lot of people, the rich were collecting these types of fascinating curios, so to speak.
Like the human hair art, the first time we saw that was in Yerington, Nevada, at the Lyon County Museum.
Places.
And I just put it up on Instagram a few days, and it's like, I Googled it, and you just don't find that much information, but apparently it was like a Victorian thing. But this lady didn't do it as jewelry. She did it as like an embroidered, design. And so it was framed. And it was all different colors, and I mean, it was intricate as can be, and it's so cool. And it's like, okay, now
you made lace with it.
Every time I brush my hair, I'm like, any hair come out? Like, what can I do with it? She was tatting hair. Yeah, it was like tatting.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Okay, so before we go back to St. Augustine, Debbie, have you been to the Thing? Down in, when you drive from Arizona through New Mexico, you see the big billboards, the Thing. You've got to go to the Thing. Have you been
I haven't been to the Thing. No.
Apparently there's a mummy in there, but from everyone, I think it's in southern Arizona. Everyone's like, do not go. It's like a fake mummy.
I think it's $1.
Yeah, it's like one of those,
Oh no.
it's like a kid shop. I don't know. So I just wanted to know if you've been in there. Well, when we go there,
I haven't been there.
Okay,
yes.
I know you like to hang around New Mexico and Arizona, so I was just wondering about that.
Yeah.
I have to ask you about the St. Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum. I know, Nancy, I knew as soon as you were putting up her article today, Nancy's all
pirates.
Her. And so
hire me, matey. Yep.
I know.
It is it's I kind of was skeptical. I thought, this is probably gonna be kind of kitschy and for children or whatever it was. But I was really impressed because it's done so well, and there are also so many authentic artifacts on display. There's let's see, Captain Kidd's family Bible. There's a piece of Sir Francis Drake's ship. There's Thomas II, who is buried his original treasure chest. There is one of 3 original Jolly Roger flags still in existence. There is, the original of the first wanted poster in the world, and even some film memorabilia like the sword that Johnny Depp used in the Pirates of the Caribbean film. And so to me, it was, it surprised me in a wonderful way, and I think it's great for not only kids and families, but also for adults. I enjoyed it, and I think everybody is kind of we like that pirate lore, and we like that, and but this was more than just Disney. This was the real thing in my mind.
I like Pirates of the Caribbean in Disneyland.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
Well, okay.
Yo ho, a pirate flight for me.
I just Jolly Roger flags. I want to see a Jolly Roger flag. I mean, and who said, okay, who is Jolly Roger? Now I have to go.
He's the happiest pirate.
I know. It's like hi ho, I'm a pirate. Off we go.
That was the dwarf.
I know it's a dwarf, but I mean, I am a Jolly Roger. Could you imagine? I'm going to come steal the rum off of your ship because I'm Jolly Roger. That's kind of
I mean, I think the fascination is there with most people, and but the truth of it is piracy was this very bloody reality back then in those 16th centuries, 17th centuries, and England and Spain were rivaling each other and attacking each other's ships, and St. Augustine was this pivotal point on the trade route. So pirates and privateers, they would target it, and so it does have a lot of pirate history there, which is very colorful, and of course I think is definitely an attraction for many tourists.
I love it. And the other part too is the Maritime Museum, the St. Augustine Lighthouse and the Maritime Museum. I love that you went into a lighthouse because those are, like, to me, national treasures. And they really are.
Oh yes, definitely. I don't ever pass up the opportunity, and I love to go walk up to the top of the lighthouses. I love getting those views, and this one is still in working order. It still does what it's to do, and you can climb those 219 steps to the top. You can look at that very interesting historical lens that they have, and you can go into the keeper's house across the way, which is now a museum, which gives you an idea of what life was like for the keepers and their families. And then they have a newly opened archaeology, and education center where they have this conservation lab and this research library, and you can see via a television that zooms in on what they have actually found and the objects that they are looking at and evaluating. So it really is wonderful. Plus, then there's also these great volunteer wooden boat building people, and they're out there as well, and they're creating and from the ground up these wooden boats that they then display, and it's everything
cool.
It's a lovely place. It's I think it's one of the high points of St. Augustine, and definitely a must see in my mind.
You know that all those lighthouses are all haunted, right? You know that.
And we know how you love to go to haunted places. That's true, Hey,
Don't
speaking
get me
of that,
started.
where you stayed, okay, because the Collector Luxury Inn and Gardens. Okay, seriously, I was looking at this. This is incredible. Like, I want to go there. I could live there. And everyone, check it out. Go to the collectorinn.com. So these are like these 9 historic houses, and so I've got to ask. I know that there's all kinds of other lodging, but do you think that any of these historic homes were haunted?
I don't know. It's a good question. There's, they had quite a history, and so anything that is old, as we well know, and we've mentioned before, anything that's old and that has history, that something happened or that people lived there, whatever it is. There's, I think that there still does reminiscence of that time, and whether they manifest themselves in different ways, we don't know. But I still think that historical sites are definitely ripe for those apparitions that people talk about, or even those feelings that people talk about. Now, I stayed there several nights. I never had any issues in terms of seeing or feeling or anything. It's this gorgeous luxury property that has been meticulously restored, with all these beautiful period decor, but it also has modern amenities, so you don't lack for anything. I just loved it because it was so beautifully done on the grounds with these historical homes, and every room is different. And they had it. To me, it was one of those unique properties that that maybe some people aren't aware of that's there. It's newly opened. I think it's only been there maybe a year. I can't remember exactly, but it is new, and so it is definitely something to put on your list. Although St. Augustine itself is, of course, full of wonderful, charming, B&Bs and inns and other types of properties. I felt that this one was quite special.
And I love the gardens because of all the sculptures and, fountains and wrought iron gates. I love that. But just looking, to me, there's something about Florida with the gardens.
Yes.
And, the South does gardening well, okay? Like, it is.
They have all that humidity.
Yeah.
It really helps.
It's so good.
Yes.
Especially if you don't have a green thumb, move to Florida.
I know.
It's easier.
Everything grows. Everything grows.
I know.
Yeah.
For sure.
I know. So because I know there's the old town of St. Augustine. I'm getting it right now. I'm into the St. Augustine mode. I can keep saying it now.
Good.
But was the downtown or the old town? Was it a lot? Were there a lot of plants? Is what I want to know for
yes,
walking around and.
Beautiful little pocket gardens, beautiful flowers, very colorful. I found that the section of the city is to me, just one of those beautifully walkable areas. Most of St. Augustine is very walkable with the areas that you would
nice.
like to visit, but it's remarkably preserved. It's, wonderful little shops and galleries and accommodations, but there's these narrow brick streets. There's these stone walls. There's those, balconies. It looks a little bit European to me. The ambiance is very European. So, it's, you walk through there, it's walking, kind of back in time, and very authentic, and a showcase of fascinating, great architecture as well.
Nice.
It's so important when you travel, you take the time and to travel. You want to go where you get a totally different feeling.
Yeah.
Something very unique. And that's just good to hear. And when when cities just become like these great big square box things,
right?
With no personality.
It's a running theme. Well, that's why tourism is. I mean, that's what travel is all about. Is to see something unique,
see something different.
But I love that. One of the photos you sent me was, like cobblestone streets, and I have a thing about cobblestone streets. Like, is it brick or cobble?
Yeah.
Like, Was it brick?
It's stone, I believe. I think it's stone.
Wow.
Yeah, from what I remember, it's wonderful. The oldest street is that Avila Street, which is the oldest. I believe it's the oldest street in the nation. And so to me, that it's just charming. When you're walking in there, you're like in another world. And you're talking about how it's like nice to be transported to different places. I think St. Augustine is one of those definite places where you feel like you are really a part of that history. And to me, it's a city with like so much personality, really.
Yeah, it's brick. I'm looking at it again. It just, it was so funny because when I saw that photo first, my immediate thing was that it's like it's a painting. Like I didn't look at it as a photo. It just was like a painting.
Yeah.
Someone could paint that really nicely. But I mean, just even looking at the images, like Flagler College. I mean, the ceiling.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, the ceiling, and then
it's gorgeous.
When you're at the San Marcos National Monument, Castillos de San Marcos, looking at those cannons, like the work on the cannons themselves, like the ammunition wasn't just like, here's your cannon mass produced. This is like they made it ornamental, man. It was like ornamental, weaponry. It's really fascinating, the attention to detail when you go to places like St. Augustine. I mean, did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Now, the other thing is, we were talking about flower power in Florida, but you went on a boat ride and apparently learned some other words, too. Is it peduncle?
Yeah, this is funny. This is the St. Augustine Eco Tours, a great company owned by Zach McKenna, and he's a wonderful, passionate devotee to the environment. He's an interpretive naturalist. He's wonderful in terms of that, but he likes to do the word of the day, and he likes to impart knowledge. And I think that the one word that he was telling me was peduncle, Peduncle, and supposedly it is a part of the muscular area of the dolphin that provides that up and down swimming motion, the power for that motion. And he's just, he's a wealth of knowledge, and the tour is lovely because, you're going, through these estuaries, and he's talking to you about the creatures that are living there, like the bird life, which is amazing. And of course the bottlenose dolphins, which are, really popular, a hit for people to go and see. And I saw some of those, popping their heads up, and it was wonderful. But it's great because it gives you a whole different side of the city. You're there in the historical city and walking around with all the historical sites, and then you're out on the water, and it's another world for you. And I happen to love nature, and so I seize every opportunity I can to do some sort of eco tour or nature activity, because I really think that we need to be very cognizant of our environment, extremely cognizant.
So there's Debbie on the boat, and a dolphin jumps out, and she's, my, what a big peduncle you have.
Oh, my. Well, I'll champagne toast to that. The other thing, too, you said was Anastasia State Recreational Area, so there's hiking, and so you could go camping and bird watching, and that to me is like get out in nature and soak it up, because these places are becoming fewer and fewer, and so get out there and enjoy
peduncle watching.
Soak it up in a natural style. Now, I know that Debbie loves nature and she loves history and she loves the culture of a place, but one thing she really does like to do is eat. Just saying from our conversation. And I mean, you wouldn't know that from looking at your photo, right? But you do a lot of hiking, so she's allowed. She manages it very well, but it seems like you did have your fair time of eating your way around St. Augustine.
It's called sampling little bits, you know what I mean?
Okay,
it's like tasting little bits, and that's the way you do it. But St. Augustine is really a foodie town, and they have some wonderful restaurants, specializing in seafood, fresh seafood, seasonal creations. Several of the restaurants will tell you where that seafood comes from, where they're getting their fruits and vegetables, and where they're getting their meat, and which boats brought in what fish for the day. And so you really can see that authenticity when it comes to food and purveyors. And it's just, to me, it was a delight to eat in St. Augustine, at such places like Catch 27, Michael's Tasting Room, Cafe Alcazar, as I mentioned before, the St. Augustine Seafood Restaurant. And then the one thing that's very popular is our food tours. And I did several of those, which I absolutely love, because it gives you a real sprinkling, and it gives you a real sprinkling or a real sense of the different types of food that they have there. And so anyway, those to me are highlights, just because, like I said, I do enjoy eating, I do enjoy tasting, I do enjoy imbibing, etc.
Well, but I like the sampling, and I think that's the thing. That's the trick. I know that, especially when you first start doing, the food, wine, travel writing experience, and you go on these media tours, and it's one of those first hardcore lessons that you learn is don't finish it. Don't take the samples. Like, don't finish the whole meal, because right after you're done with that meal, here comes another one. And all of a sudden, your waist will say to you, dude, don't do that. And so it's true. To get a little sample of, and I love places that, stick to their regional food. Obviously you're going to have something else, but that when you get a taste of the town. I love that.
Yes, and so like St. Augustine, they have a very popular chocolate factory there at a tour called Whetstone Chocolate Factory, and it was a family-run business that started, I think, back in the 60s with ice cream, and then the couple, the Whetstones, started making fudge, and then that turned into all this wonderful artisan chocolates. And so the tour is great because you learn about the history, you learn about, chocolate, making chocolate, and then you do this wonderful educate your palate kind of part of the tour, where of course that everybody loves that, because you get to sample all these wonderful different types of chocolate, whether it's dark or milk or white or whatever. And so that is a real hit with tourists. And then, on the other side of the coin is the distillery, St. Augustine Distillery. And it is truly, once again, it's in this very historic building that they have done an incredible job renovating and have received awards for it. And you can learn, all about how they use the agriculture in Florida and the products there, and they turn them into vodka and gin and rum and bourbon. And then, of course, you get to imbibe in a variety of cocktails. And they make the cocktails right in front of you, like a demonstration kitchen. So you get to see how they're made, and you get to sample things like rum drinks and old fashioned, and it's a big hit. It's a big hit with tourists. I think that distillery tours, just like wine, visiting wineries, are very popular. And so that was wonderful. And then they have this company called the Tasting Tours that does these incredible Corks and Forks tours, which I found it was, it's this 3-hour wonderful. You are walking though, which is a good thing.
Good.
And, you eat or drink your way through St. Augustine to sample some of the creatively prepared dishes, the ingredients that they use, and boutique wines, and you get a guide, hopefully like the one I had. Her name was Donna. She is a St. Augustine native who went to Flagler College, and she had a wealth of information, and she is very passionate about her town, and it showed, and it made for a very fascinating and delightful evening.
I want to go back to the distillery, because I think it is fascinating. Well, no, the one thing about Florida was the rum drinks were exceptional. They know how to use rum. And I remember like beach views and some of the bars being out on the water, and it's just super cool. But the one thing I wanted to touch on was that the building itself was the first commercial ice plant, or Florida.
Right. Yes, it is Florida's first commercial ice plant back in the 1917, something like that. But It is definitely a very interesting building in itself, and they've done a wonderful job to renovate it. I thought it was just a very cool experience. They have a little museum, and then you go into the place with the barrels and where they're making it, and then you go into the tasting rooms where they're creating it, and it was one of these really nicely done tours, which I thought, I've been to a lot of different, food tours and distillery or, wineries. This one was done very, very well.
Now let's talk about the peace pie, because Debbie always finds some favorite local munchie that she has a thing about, and apparently the peace pie is your thing.
Oh my gosh. I'm like salivating and dreaming of peace pies, and I could actually order them and have them delivered to me, but that would be a really that's a really tempting situation, and I could get into a bad habit with that. But this is a family-run establishment. They have several locations. I think New Jersey, South Carolina, now Florida. But it's this like ginormous. You get ice cream and then this layer of pie filling between these like really heavy-duty shortbread cookies that hold it in, and the flavors that they've come up with are just amazing. I mean, they're incredible. It's like peanut butter chiffon or key lime pie or salted brownie or pumpkin latte. They're very creative in their flavors, and they're very addicting. Let's just put it that way.
I just feel like one could go well with champagne, like the salted brownie and champagne. Yeah, I'm just thinking it could make a good champagne sundaes. I don't know.
Yes.
It just sounds good to me.
Yes.
I mean, why not? Eat your ice cream for breakfast. There's nothing wrong with that.
Eat it anytime. Eat it anytime,
Exactly. I'm liking this. So the other thing is, too, you talked about when you were staying at the Collector Luxury Inn and Gardens, that, you're right there, you can go and have a cocktail at the wall, and that's another first over there in that building.
Right. And that is the first, the two-car garage, I believe. It was the first one in the city. And so it's this wonderful, stone building on the resort's property. And, it's this cute, intimate, cozy bar that also does a few little special food plates. But the bartenders there are very wonderful. So you can, tell them if you like a specific, do you like rum? Do you like, what is it you like? And gin. And then, do you like fruit? Do you like berries? Do you like herbs? Whatever it is. And they will go ahead and just make something for you, and just based on your taste. So they will do these, very original drinks that are, cultured to your specific liking. And, they're big on the herb-infused drinks, which I think are getting extremely popular. And so I found that to be a delightful experience. And then outside on the property, there are these, you can sit, around these outdoor fire pits that they have and enjoy just this wonderful ambiance. It's really a great property.
I love this. I love that you're doing so much in the South. This is so cool. I want to give everyone the websites again for the Collector Luxury Inn and Gardens. It's thecollectorinn.com. I love, when buildings are repurposed and, upgraded and made into something functional where people can go and enjoy it, especially the public. I know people renovate historic homes, which I
love that.
I could geek out on the Home and Garden channel for hours watching historical property renovations. It's terrible.
As long
as
they keep it.
And then I know, but it's like if money was no option, I would that would be like a second career for me. It would just be going and buying up historic buildings everywhere and restoring them so that we don't lose them. But when people can stay in them, I feel like you're getting what it was like back then to live in this community, but in a luxury way, like with the Collector Inn. So I really hats off to them, because I know that is such hard work to not only renovate them, but then make it where the public can come out. I mean, it's and stay there.
Absolutely. It's to me, it's a labor of love, and people who do that, they have a real passion for historic preservation and for repurposing, as you say, and letting the public experience that. Otherwise, those buildings would crumble, and nobody would ever visit them or even knew that they were there.
And the gardens, I mean, this is awesome. So the collectorinn.com, everyone, and then again the other website is Florida's with an S, floridashistoriccoast.com. And Debbie's article, you can see it now on nationalparktraveling.com, and it'll also be featured in the April-May issue of Parks and Travel magazine. The current issue is out right now, so you can go to nationalparktraveling.com and see it. It's the February-March issue, and you will see Debbie's article on historic Las Vegas in northern New Mexico, the original and authentic, and talk about history and renovating historic buildings. It's interesting, you getting into the history of Flagler, and what he's done in going in and creating these buildings. He kind of reminds me of Mr. Harvey, Fred Harvey from creating the Harvey houses. So it's just interesting how these people go around and build these, and then people come in later and save them. So good stuff.
Right.
But before you go, we want to know what you're toasting to at Champagne Sundays.
Well, I have a special toast. My father, Fred, just turned 95.
Wow.
And so I am sending out my toast and my congratulations to my father, my dear father, for 95 years.
Oh, I toast to him. That means we can have another bottle of champagne, right? Pop that one open. Get the Magnum out. Oh, we'll toast to your dad. Congratulations. 95 is good. You see, that's that fire monkey spirit. I bet you he's a fire monkey, too.
Yeah, probably.
I bet you. See, that's good. That's good. So just eat a little bit, hike, and then you can be like Bob and his daughter Debbie. See? That's how to do it.
And his name is Fred.
Oh, Fred. I thought, why did I say Bob for some reason? I don't know. But now he's Bob. I don't know why.
Congratulations on your new name as
I know, and as I said that, I went,
right.
Did I do that right or wrong? And, I'm not having any champagne at all. Debbie, I do have your name right. But, okay, so you're going to be back on our show in a week from now, less than a week. Yeah, just in a few days here. Debbie will be back on February 9th to talk about her time in Oxford, Mississippi. So you are covering the South a lot, and so you want to give everyone a sneak preview of that so people know to tune in and check out your new article?
Wonderful, wonderful. I look forward to it.
All right. So did you hear what I said about giving everyone a quick preview about Oxford?
Oh, you want me to give them a sneak preview about Oxford?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oxford. I think it's a southern gem of a city. It is steeped in history as well. It also has this deep literary connection with Faulkner, who lived and worked there. The greats of like John Grisham, who worked there and did his writing there. It is also the site of Ole Miss, the University of Mississippi. It once again also has this wonderful southern Gothic architecture, a good burgeoning food scene, and delightful art scene as well, with incredibly hospitable people.
Excellent. Everybody, again, Debbie will be back on February 9th to talk about Oxford, Mississippi. And you can keep up with Debbie's articles. Go to blendradioandtv.com, and you can click on her in the expert department. And when you click on Debbie, she will go, I'm a fire monkey. No, I'm kidding. You can read her articles and listen to her interviews. So, Debbie, of course, we have to have music for you, right? Because, this one is called Oceanfront Walk, since you were at the beach. And
perfect.
When I think of Florida, sometimes the blues scene was always really big when we were living out there. And this is from Johnny Mastro and the Mama's Boys. It's off of an album called Pinch That Snake. And it's about pinch the snake
behind the head
before it bites you, basically.
Yes. I love it.
So here it is. Oceanfront Walk, and everyone, you can learn more about Johnny Mastro and the Mama's Boys out in New Orleans. Go to johnnymastro.com. Thanks so much, Debbie.
Thank you, gals. Talk to you soon.
All right. Okay, take care. one. That was Oceanfront Walk by Johnny Mastro and the Mama's Boys off of their album Pinch That Snake. That was done, about how many years ago? That was a while ago, back when they lived in L.A. area, and we used to, that Oceanfront Walk, Beachfront Walk, reminds us, it's Venice Beach. We were talking about that on Friday's show, and that's where we first met Johnny Mastro. He's been on the cover of our magazine twice. Once when back in the day when we were print, and also in our Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. But again, keep up with them at johnnymastro.com. Their latest album is Never Trust the Living. All right, so I know. So I sat down and had a conversation with Dr. Jackie Ubani, and take a listen to what she has to say. She's on a mission to get people aware of women and heart disease, what a killer it is. And so she's on this mission, and she shares some signs of what to look out for someone having a heart attack, especially a woman. So take a listen to Dr. Jackie. She's always fun. Heart disease remains the number one killer of women in the U.S., killing more women than breast and lung cancer combined. And Dr. Jacqueline Ubani, she's a board-certified cardiologist and electrophysiologist who practices in Orange County, California, is back on Big Blend Radio today to explain the signs and symptoms of a woman having a heart attack, which is different from men. We don't do the big fall down, clutch your chest thing. We're different. We're built different, and we rock. But anyway, Dr. Jackie is on a mission to help women get through, not have heart disease, and also to get through that if you do have heart disease. She is the author of Women and Heart Disease, The Real Story. You can get it on Amazon, and also go to her website, womenandheartdiseasebook.com. And we're also proud to have her as a regular expert contributor in Big Blend Radio and TV magazine, and here on Big Blend Radio, because I don't know, but she's a fun doctor, man. How often do you get to giggle with a doctor? Welcome back, Dr. Jackie.
Thanks for having me. I am so excited to be here today. So excited.
I'm glad we're talking about this. I know we've touched on heart disease over the months, and everyone, if you go to blendradioandtv.com, you can read Dr. Jackie's articles and listen to her interviews. But we always touch about what happens if someone has a heart attack, and reading your book, which is by my side all the time. It's my reminder of Nancy and I both not to have more than that 5 ounces of wine, and to take our morning walks, and to our feet swelling in the desert heat, and if so, why? So you keep us on the straight and narrow as much as anyone will ever be able to do it.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah. I'm so glad to hear
really
that.
Is.
I'm glad that we're having this show this month of February, which is awareness for Women's Heart Health Month. So it's good.
That's right. And so the thing is, I know your book is for women, and to me, isn't it something that men and women need to know about? Because we need to know, men need to know about their loved ones too, and their moms and their wives, their girlfriends, their sisters, cousins, because having a heart attack, it is really different. So can you tell us a little bit of, what are the signs of a heart attack?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think men should know about this disease. It's the same disease process that they get, but they know more, or society is more aware of the fact that men have heart attacks than women do. But a heart disease, like you mentioned earlier, is the number one killer of women in the United States. So it's very important for women to understand about heart disease and the signs and symptoms of heart disease, so that they can present to their doctors as soon as they feel like they're potentially having a heart attack, so that the outcomes from this disease process could be good. So for women, So when we talk about the typical signs and symptoms of a heart attack, the typical symptoms that we're all aware of is the crushing left-sided chest pains with shortness of breath, radiation down the left arm or up the neck, and things of that nature. But women are a little bit different. Statistics show that only about 43% of women. The 43% of women do not actually present to the emergency room with chest pain, which can make it a little bit difficult to diagnose. So what women tend to present with are nonspecific signs and symptoms like shortness of breath, dyspnea, or, short of breath with mild activity, GI symptoms like nausea and vomiting. The big one is fatigue, insomnia, and those nonspecific signs and symptoms. So sometimes it can be difficult for women to know that they're having symptoms. But what I usually educate my women or my patients is that they should know their risk factors for heart disease. So if you know that you're considered high risk for heart disease and you have any one of these nonspecific symptoms, then you should go and see your doctor sooner rather than later, because it's better to be told that you're not having a heart attack than it is to be told, well, you had a heart attack 5 days ago, and why are you just coming in now, and things like that.
Okay, so that's the thing. Do you see, a lot of people come in and go, find out that they've had, heart attacks and no one ever diagnosed it because, they just thought they were tired? Because we all feel tired. We're women.
Yeah, so women are notorious for putting things, to the back burner because they tend to be the caregivers for their families. They have, they support their families. They have to work. They have children and all these things. So when they don't feel well, they're more likely to put it in the back burner because they have so much other things going on in their lives that they don't seek medical attention right away. So it's not uncommon in my years of practice to see a woman come into the emergency room after she just couldn't take it anymore. She's been having symptoms for 4 or 5 days, and just couldn't take it anymore. And then shows up in the emergency room and is told, you had a heart attack a couple of days ago. You're just coming in now, that kind of thing. So it's very important for women to be aware that this can affect your life. This is the number one killer of women in the United States. And if you're, for whatever reason, not feeling well, and you have a number of these symptoms together, that you should really seek medical attention ASAP.
Okay, so when it comes to medical attention, are we driving off, getting 911 or going to urgent care? I mean, if you think you need to get to the ER immediately, as fast as you can, right?
Yes, you should get to the emergency room as fast as you can. If you're feeling really bad, you feel like you're having a heart attack, you really should call 911 right away. You shouldn't drive to the emergency room on your own. The reason for that is because when the emergency the EMS people come to your house, they're able to start treatment right away. Because what we say is time is tissue. The sooner you get treatment for your heart attack, the higher the likelihood that you could survive this incident with absolutely no ramifications. So if the EMTs at your house, they begin treatment right away, which sets the clock back.
And if someone's there, okay, like if a woman's having a heart attack and the family members realize this, and they call 911, is there anything that they can do to help alleviate this or help her?
Yeah, so if you have aspirin around, it's always a good idea to take a baby aspirin. We always say chewable aspirin if you're acutely feeling like you're having a heart attack. Just chew 2 of those pills, and that helps. If you are a heart patient and you have nitroglycerin in your medicine cabinet, it's always a good idea to pop one of those under your tongue while you're waiting for the emergency people to get to your house.
Oh, okay. So there's things you can do even if you're on your own. It's like you don't have to go get the sheets and, like deliver a baby. There's magic little pills there that'll help you. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
But it's the other thing too, let's talk about this because, if you haven't been doing your checkups and you don't know that you're on the path towards heart disease, or if you already know you are and you're seeing a doctor, then to be aware of these symptoms and signs, pretty well. You know that if I'm really feeling unusually tired, you need to start taking a look at what's going on. But if someone doesn't know, what are some of the signs that you are on that path to heart disease?
So we talk about risk factors for coronary artery disease or heart disease, and some of these risk factors include things like smoking. We know that women who smoke are at 25% higher risk of having a heart attack compared to men who smoke. So smoking is very bad for women. We talk about things like obesity, physical inactivity, excess alcohol use. If you have medical problems or chronic medical problems like hypertension, high cholesterol, and diabetes, those kinds of things put you at risk for heart disease. And as you guys may or may not be aware of, the American Heart Association just came out with very new guidelines for hypertension. They've decreased the number that's considered normal. So now they're considering normal blood pressures to be 120/80, and anything higher than that to be hypertension, which puts a whole lot more people under the category of hypertension than before. So knowing what your blood pressure is, knowing that you are at high risk based on some risk factors should, really clue you in if you have one of these symptoms to go to the emergency room.
Wow. And so we really have to look at our weight. And, I know we always talk about, taking walks and getting some cardio in. And that's the thing, because I always hear that women, that when we start to get those pot bellies, and it happens after the 40s, it starts to come in, that is one of the most dangerous things. If you see that belly coming.
I'm so glad you brought that. I'm so glad you brought that up. Something about abdominal obesity really increases your risk for heart disease. And this has been shown many times in different studies. And the studies show now that if your abdominal waist circumference is greater than 35 inches, you are at high risk for heart disease. So this is something very easy that you can do at home. You just take a tape measure and you measure around your waist, just below your umbilicus or belly button, and if it's greater than 35 inches, you're at high risk for heart disease. So you can gain weight anywhere. It seems like gaining weight around your abdomen seems to put you at higher risk for heart disease than anything else.
Well, okay, so now that means, you need, then, so we can't even use the big boned thing. Like, we can't just say we're big boned. Like, we can't.
No.
Doesn't work.
Well, you can say big bone, but if your waist circumference is greater than 35 inches, then it's not big bone.
I got the tires then. That's what happens. I'm wearing my tires. Okay, so maybe you need to start exercising and get into some kind of plan for that. And from what I have read, is like it's exercise and diet, right? And that's the first thing too, is to look at what you're saying, alcohol, and alcohol it's always been worse for women than for men. It's just not fair.
It's just not fair. It is just not fair. So I don't like to say the word diet, because people just get all upset and they feel like they're going to fall off the wagon. So I like to say healthy eating. So if you pick healthier choices in your meals, it goes a long way in preventing your heart disease than eating whatever you want. So healthier meal choices are always better for your heart than anything else. Okay.
Healthier meal choices, getting out there, getting the cardio in, 5 ounces of wine if you have to have it at the end of the day. No, it's really just, to me, when I look at the stress too, it doesn't that add to your weight, for women?
Yeah.
Is that if you're stressed, that you do actually get heavier over just getting all stressed out, as we do very easily.
Absolutely. So when you're under a lot of stress, you release a lot of hormones. And these hormones, or what we call cortisol, definitely increases your appetite and makes it a lot more difficult to lose weight. So, stress definitely increases your risk for heart disease. And also we talk about, situations of stress every day, constantly being exposed to these hormones are definitely bad for you and for your heart.
Okay, so if you have been an incredibly stressed out person, and we've done interviews with people that have really gone off the edge. Like, I know a gentleman who jumped off a building, kind of thing, and one guy who went into his conference meeting. Very, successful man, and he lost it. He walked into the board meeting totally naked, and there's. We've done so many stories on stress, and and it just seems like, okay, you get to this point and people will crack in some way or go into a habit that is not good for you, smoking, alcohol, drugs, even now. Do you see women have any heart issues over, like, taking, like, things that they shouldn't do for stress? I mean, like taking pills instead of changing their diet. I mean, or their lifestyle, like you're saying. You know,
yeah, sometimes, yeah. If you do the unhealthy things like taking the pills, those don't help reverse the risk as much as, you know, healthier things and the exercise. Exercising and figuring out ways to relax and calm down. I talk a little bit about meditation in my book. Those things go a longer way to decreasing your stress and decreasing your risk for heart disease than trying to take pills.
Okay, so if you're trying to, you know, reverse this, because some of the people we've talked to, they were able to reverse a lot of issues and change their life, change what they were doing business. A lot of them just weren't even happy in their career choice, you know.
Right.
When you get to that point, you know, in life, and we look at, you know, we're February. Everyone's now realizing, were they able to keep up with their New Year's resolutions? Are they freaking out? You know, like, oh my gosh, I didn't do my journal every day.
I know.
Take a walk.
I know.
You know, there's all that.
I know.
So there's that.
I know.
It gets stressful.
Yeah, I know.
But
it can be very stressful. I always encourage my patients to, you know, set realistic goals, okay? Don't try to set goals that you know that you can't achieve. Try to set realistic goals. Start slowly and then increase as you are able to do that. Because when you set unrealistic goals, you're just going to be doomed to fail.
Now, okay, so when we talk about these high rates of, you know, stress and weight, maybe, all of those things, are we able to reverse it at a certain point? Like if someone now is basically walking into, now I really do have heart disease, are they able to reverse this and live a healthier life without having the threat of heart disease?
Absolutely. And studies have shown that over and over again. Studies show that if you can decrease your risk for heart disease, if you can improve your risk factors, you can decrease your rate of heart disease by up to 80%, no matter what your genetics say. So quitting smoking, exercising, healthy eating, maintaining a healthy weight, controlling your blood pressure, your cholesterol, and your blood sugars go a very long way in preventing you from having heart disease.
It's like our friend whose blood pressure was really high, and the weight was getting on there, and diabetes, and now has reversed everything. Just like recently, all of like the boxes have been checked, and it's, you know, eating healthy, taking walks, and having a dog helps apparently, because they take you for a faster walk than if you were walking on your own.
No, absolutely. And if you talk to these people who've reversed their lifestyles, you see they'll tell you that they've actually stopped taking some of the medications that were prescribed by their doctors because, you know, all of a sudden their blood pressure is no longer high, their blood sugars are well controlled without medication, their cholesterol is well controlled. So once you start implementing a healthier lifestyle, you find that you don't need the medications that you were taking to control all your risk factors.
Okay, so what happens when if you're you know when you're scared, your heart beats, you know? And we've talked about this before, like, can you have a heart attack out of fear? You know, we have that saying, you know, don't give me a heart attack, you know. So when you have that, you know, the heart going crazy like that, are we in danger? Because, I mean, can that come from stress? I know in situations like, you know, that beating of my heart's going like nuts, and then I go, oh, my gosh, am I putting myself in risk, you know, heart-wise?
For heart disease. So if it's just, you know, your everyday kind of, you know, stressed, you know, because you're nervous about something, it won't per se put you at a high risk for having a heart attack acutely. But there are some situations where people are exposed to extreme stress, like a death of a family member or something that's so extreme that can actually put them at risk for an acute heart condition. We call that broken heart syndrome. I know you've heard that before, but it's a stress-induced cardiomyopathy that can happen, and that's typically seen in women, and it's usually due to just high stress that happened just acutely, And I always say, like, the death of somebody you just found out, a very close loved one that dies, you find out about that. That acute stress can cause you to have a heart condition right there and then.
Wow. So we got to watch that, you know. So, but no, it's true because, you know, and okay, so when you go to a funeral and there are people who faint, you know.
Yeah.
And then I always wonder,
absolutely.
are you just fainting or did something, you know, more happen? So when someone, you know, goes down, like I don't mean this bad, but I mean if you see a woman like looking as though she's fainting, you should maybe think that it could be something else too.
More serious. You should call 911 ASAP because it could be more serious than it looks.
Okay, I've got one weird question for you because you know I've been saving this. I've been saving this since Christmas. Okay, so like I've got a thing about black licorice. Okay, like I mean real black licorice, not the Twizzler stuff, not the fake stuff. I mean like, you know, German stuff that you have no sugar. Some of it does, and I got some from our favorite place, the Peanut Patch in Yuma. They have it in Yuma, Arizona. And I had a little too many of pieces of them. I know I did. I know you're not supposed to. And I know, Dr. Jackie, I didn't have the Christmas cookies. This was my only treat for Christmas, okay, other than wine and champagne. That was it. But I'm serious. This was my little pieces of licorice. And I don't know. You know how the Internet knows everything, right? And it was like there was an article on the Internet. I have no idea if it's true, but they said that women, if they eat too much licorice in one day or over a series of days, can actually put themselves at risk for a heart attack. And I didn't know if that's true. It's like off the wall. So then I wanted to know, it's like, are there foods and things that we eat, like herbs or something? Like I know sometimes like women shouldn't have St. John's wort if they're pregnant. Is there anything out there that is not good for us that could like cause a reaction for your heart?
Yeah, you're actually right about the black licorice. But when you eat too much of it, we're talking like a whole lot of licorice. I don't think anybody can ever sit through and eat that much licorice. But the licorice can cause heart problems because it can increase. It can increase a certain hormone level that can put your heart at risk, especially the black licorice. But there is warning about that. But it's a whole lot. I can't imagine anybody sitting around and eating just that much licorice to cause a problem. But it is a true phenomenon, actually.
Wow. That's wild. Like, that's crazy. That is crazy. Okay, so anything else we should know not to scarf on?
Don't eat the whole store's worth of black licorice because you will get in trouble.
Okay. I won't, Dr. Jackie. Well, we appreciate you coming on Big Blend Radio to share, this important information, and always a big reminder to keep our lifestyle on track. What's good for us, because we want to be around. There's good things to experience in the world. There's places to travel to. Hey, where's your next destination? Because I know you love to travel places. Where's the next? Do you know?
I'm actually going somewhere low key. I'm going to Cancun with my sister. So we just want to have fun and relax. I've never been to Cancun, believe it or not. But it's just going to be a fun and relaxing vacation. Nice.
There's wildlife out there, all kinds of it. I'm just saying, people and animals. I know.
Awesome.
I know. So you're going to have to come back on a world radio party so we can talk about Cancun.
Oh,
I
would love that.
Awesome. You see, we got to take our breaks. That's important in life. Have that balance. Everybody, again, Dr. Jackie's book is called Women and Heart Disease, The Real Story. It's on Amazon. It's, again, by Dr. Jacqueline Ubani. And go to her website, womenandheartdiseasebook.com. She's on Twitter and Facebook. And also go read her articles in blendradioandtv.com and listen to her interviews there as well. Thanks so much for all the good advice, Dr. Jackie.
Hey, thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
We love it. You take care, and we'll go take a walk right now. How about that?
All right. Yes, that sounds like a great idea.
Okay. Thanks so much.
All right. You take care. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Dr. Jackie coming on the shows.
She's so much fun.
She makes healthcare fun, even if I can't eat the whole store worth of licorice.
Well, I guess
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but there's the phony licorice and the real licorice.
Yeah, but the real licorice is the stuff. That's what I was saying. It's not that Twizzler stuff. That doesn't.
That's nothing.
No, the
that's
black
sugar.
Licorice is like it is.
It's a root.
Dude, I love black licorice, and now
it's
I
really
want it.
Salty, and maybe
that's
part of the reason. Real
I
licorice.
love black licorice. Oh,
it's like eating a salted tire.
It's good. Okay, there's all kinds, and it's really, really good. I love it. We were talking about taking a walk. We do this almost every day as best we can. And please come join us all on our Facebook group, 1 Hour Walk. It's hashtag 1 Hour Walk, or go to onehourwalk.com. You'll see our videos of different 1 hour walks around the country. But on our Facebook group, just go to Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine. You'll find us and find our groups. And we have one for walking. And people from all over share their 1 hour walks, put photos up. So it's really cool. Either join us and put your photos in, or look at everybody's walks. It's really quite inspiring.
Yeah, it is.
It's a way to travel around the world.
And we learned a new word today.
I know. Peduncle.
No, well, there's that. And then she said...
You can say it.
Umbilicus.
Okay. All right.
Just below your umbilicus.
Okay.
Is your peduncle.
Okay. All right. So in the meantime, we've got a song just for Dr. Jackie, and it's Two Young Hearts, since it's Heart Month. And Valentine's Day is coming up. So this is from our good friend Dino Jag over in Southern Australia in Adelaide. And it's off of his EP called Breakthrough. And it's Two Young Hearts, and it's cool. So go to dinojag.com and get it.
We were two young hearts shooting for the stars. We made it to the moon, but we got lost on Mars. We traded diamond rings, we thought we had a lifetime thing. But it got messed up, I didn't fill your cup, I didn't give enough. If I could press rewind back to that time you first caught my eye, I'd go back now, bring out the violins, this time you'll feel my fire. Oh, you look so good, like a queen. You were such a dream, but I didn't know how to treat you then. I should have showed you that I love you more than anything. Now all I wanna do is make you feel the best. Why don't we sail away, me and you? We could start again, brand new. We could have another dance. We deserve a second chance. 'Cause two young hearts fall in love again. I'm gonna pick you up at 8. I won't be late.
everyone. Again, that was Two Young Hearts. We got to play that for Dr. Jackie every time she comes on. Yeah. I know. It's from Dino Jag's latest EP. It's called Breakthrough, and we're going to have a breakthrough on how to do public speaking.
You know, that's so important, and it's so nerve-wracking.
Dude, it's nerve-wracking for everybody.
Really is.
Whether you're in the audience going, oh, God, is someone going to...
Why am I here?
Yeah, it better be fun. You know, sometimes at work you're, pushed into these seminars, and you must go there, and then it's like worse than what you thought.
Yeah.
And then there's fun stuff. There's, really great, awesome presenters, and our next guest is one of those. Stay tuned. So we all dread those boring presentations that suck the living life force right out of us. Like Jabba the Hutt just came with a giant straw and said, this sucks.
There goes your oxygen.
I know. And it's a waste of time. And it's actually being the person dishing out these baggies of boredom and being the time thief. It sucks. And so we've got someone who's going to help us not be the person that sucks up all the life force in the world. We have public speaking, I can't even speak, public speaking coach Lisa Braithwaite here on Big Blend Radio's Champagne Sunday show today to talk about her fun, and I mean fun and informative book. It's called Presenting for Humans, not Jabba the Hutt. No, I'm kidding. It's Presenting for Humans, Insights for Speakers on Ditching Perfection and Creating Connection. And if you're looking to make a major impact on audiences and offer them a transformative educational experience that truly connects, this book is the one to go and get. Go to presentingforhumans.com, or you can go to Lisa's website. It's Coach Lisa B, and it's just the letter B. So CoachLisaB.com. Of course, it's on Amazon and all those great places. But Lisa, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're glad you're here. First thing, can we have champagne while we're presenting? Uh-oh. We're going to get a no.
How about if you're giving a toast, you can always have champagne while you're giving a toast.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah,
I think for a lot of people, having too much alcohol before they speak might be a mistake. But I would not, I frequently speak at events where there might be some wine and cheese beforehand. I'll have a little bit of wine. Like everyone else, wine helps to loosen me up a little, but I'm not going to go crazy because I don't want to get on stage and be drunk,
Oh, yeah. Well, it can be entertaining at that point. But,
that's true.
You talk about the toasting, and it brings me to the first thing is that basically everyone, I would say at least 90% of us, at some point in our life have to stand up and speak to a group of people, even if it's 5 people. I'm a loudmouth, but I'm actually quite shy. And as a musician, I was a lead singer and had to get out there in the front and actually talk to the audience, and it was the worst thing ever. And then go into a business meeting or just one of those networking events, and you have to stand up and say, my name is Lisa, and I'm from Big Blend Radio, and I'm too shy to talk to you, and I have sweaty palms, and I can't even pick up my coffee cup without shaking, So a lot of us go into all kinds of things, or it could be you have to, do the eulogy for your great aunt or something. Yep. We all have to speak at some point.
Yeah, and you make a good point about, you mentioned that you're shy. And I am also shy. There are a lot. So I have a lot of clients come to me and say, "Oh, I'm an introvert, so this is why I'm not good at speaking," or "I'm shy, and this is why." And I say, "Hey, join the club." Many of us who get on stage are not. We don't naturally enjoy being in groups or those networking scenarios where you have to walk up to strangers and introduce yourself. I hate that. I'm a lot like other people. But I'm an outgoing introvert.
Yeah.
And so I'm talkative like you. I'm a big mouth. And I like making people laugh, and I like entertaining people, and I was a theater major and all of that. However, it's still nerve-wracking for me to walk into a group of strangers like it is for a lot of people. And a lot of speakers, I would say, I mean, the vast majority of speakers, and we're talking about high-paid professional speakers and people who do this all the time, still get nervous before they go on stage. And it's a good thing because it means that they care. It means that they want to do a good job. It means they have high expectations of themselves. So being nervous before you speak is not only normal, it's kind of desirable.
Mm-hmm. I think you're really right. We've gone to enough presentations to know, and I'm not going to say anything against Toastmasters. I'm just going to observe that some people who use the Toastmaster kind of thing as their forefront have kind of a chip on their shoulder, like I'm from Toastmasters, so I'm great. And they kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I find a disconnect because they aren't nervous. And they tend to be really boring.
It's this polished, well-canned speech.
Yeah, it's like
that's it.
Without any personality. Let me put it, they lack the personality because maybe they've said it so many times they don't care. Mm-hmm. Maybe it has nothing to do with Toastmasters, but they always say that's where they learn to speak. And I've come away with the idea that that's the last place to go if you want to learn to speak in front of a crowd, which is probably not true. But
well, I'll just say, and I'm not a Toastmaster, and I've seen some really stagey, really canned, really, to me, horrible presentations come out of Toastmasters, but I've seen that everywhere.
I'm alone then.
So, and all I'm going to say is I'm not a Toastmaster, so I don't do that whole practice every facial expression and every gesture, and I think that is the problem that a lot of people get into. It's almost about being over rehearsed when you are so, as you said, overly polished, overly canned, overly rehearsed to the point where you're not making a human connection, which is what my book is all about. That if you're not making a connection with your audience, if you're not engaging them emotionally, if you're not activating their emotions in some way, then it doesn't matter how perfect your gestures are or your facial expressions or that you remembered every single word that you wanted to say. It's not about being perfect. So thank you for the lovely segue into what my book is about.
Well, I love that part, too, because you build on it and you really – public speaking, to me, you're replacing fear with information and fun. And, we also have that nervousness, that's exciting to have. It's that exciting thing. I look at it as it's like being a musician, and I think it's just us both being musicians, Nancy and I, and then also doing so many interviews with musicians. There's this balance of knowing the song, knowing the chords you need to have, and really good music is when the band allows this jamming dynamic. Like you can, now we're going to jam and go beyond the sheet music. Stuff. But you have to know your song to be able to do it. So it's like walking this little tightrope, Stevie Ray Vaughan reference that you're able to do, and it's that balance of knowing your stuff, but being able to be yourself and being able to read the audience. And you talk a lot in your book about actually knowing your audience before you walk in, whatever you're talking about, actually knowing what their ups and downs are, what they're dealing with, and doing some research beforehand.
Right. In terms of being able to allow yourself to be flexible and spontaneous and completely in the moment with your audience and completely present with your audience, you have to be incredibly well prepared. So the music analogy is great because that really explains it well. You have to know your stuff. You have to know who you're speaking to, who's in the audience, what do they need, what do they want and care about, how are you going to engage them in a way that feels relevant to them and practical and useful, and how are you going to bring them into your world and create a great experience. And in order to do that, you have to be really well prepared. And then you have to allow yourself to be in the moment. And then you have to let go of all the stuff going on in your head. You know, am I funny enough? Am I smart enough? Am I going to forget something? Am I impressing people? All these things that go on in our head while we're speaking that keep us from being present and in the moment. We have to let that go and just trust that we've done everything we can do and that we're ready and that we're going to nail it. It's a mindset piece. It's a mindset piece.
You know, I think when you're about to make a presentation, you can easily get caught up in how good am I going to be, and that takes the focus off of your passion to help the audience in some way, because that's why you're there, to help the audience in some manner. And if you start thinking about yourself, then you're not thinking about the audience, and I think that's when you get into trouble. But it's so hard to not think about yourself when you're going to put yourself out there on that tightrope.
Oh, absolutely. And so many people think that they have to, you know, there's so many misconceptions that people take into speaking engagements with them. One of them is, you know, I have to be the smartest person in the room. I have to be able to answer everybody's questions. People can't have any challenges or any disagreement with me, so I have to be perfect and know everything. And when you go in there with that kind of attitude, I have to be the smartest and the funniest and the most witty, and then you make it all about yourself, then these are the people that you see who are, you know, reading 1,000 words in teeny tiny font off of a PowerPoint because they're so afraid of not saying everything they need to say, and they pack too much information into the presentation, and they don't give the audience a chance to breathe or think or process, and they don't engage with the audience, which is another way that your audience processes your information, and that's by thinking it through themselves in another way, whether it's an activity you give them or you ask them some questions and ask them to respond back, or there are a million engagement activities, but you can't just, you're not filling an empty vessel. You're not walking into a room and everybody in the room knows nothing about your topic, and you're just going to pour all of your wisdom and all of your information into them. That's not how it works. But when we think of a presentation that way, we do create this barrier between us and the audience. We overwhelm them, we bore them, we don't bring anything personal or we don't bring our own personality into it, and it's all because you're thinking of yourself. You know, it's all because you're all in your head rather than thinking, how can I bring the audience the best value? How can I bring them some sort of transformation? How can I get them to take action, right? Everything you do, as you said, is all about them. Ultimately what they're going to take away and what they can go and do and use from what you're bringing them.
And, you know, that's what, when we do our tourism seminars, we as Nancy and I travel, I know we've touched on this before the show, we go into communities and talk about responsible tourism, sustainable tourism that benefits a community, and the community benefiting, you know, the tourism base. And, you know, there's a lot of dialogue that has to happen within the community, within the business, within the actual communities, the schools, the residents, the homeowners, to make that balance happen. So we go in and talk about having excellence in tourism. And, you know, as we travel, we have a pink sock monkey that was given to me on my birthday, Priscilla. You know, she was the queen of the desert. Now she's the queen of the road, and she's a diva. But she goes around as a mascot. But it is to remind people of having fun. And when we got into the tourism seminar thing, it happened just because a community that we were in went through a wildfire, a significant one, and right after that a government shutdown in their national park area, and some of the smaller communities were really having a hard time with it. And so we went in to speak because we have, and I know you've been through wildfires. We've been through
I was going to say, that
them.
Sounds like my community.
I know. Yeah. I know you were supposed to be on last year with us, and unfortunately you experienced the wildfires being in Southern California, which is how we ended up in the desert. But anyway, we know about the comeback of a community going through this, and So they were like, will you stand up and speak? And we're like, uh-oh. and all of, I mean, we literally were up until like 3 a.m, had to be there first thing in the morning to get it there and do this. But we took Priscilla and we played games with people because they needed to shake the drama and get into the zone of tourism. Travel is supposed to be fun. Nancy created this tourism game and with people speaking and doing things. And then we had moments where, okay, now we speak and do this, and then open it up to questions. And well, it was a very interesting, it became a town hall, and like, you know, we should have brought the politicians in. But there was that balance, and I think that if we didn't have that feedback, and what we have found through our seminars is that we should just go in and just say, okay, ask questions, because that's where we were able to really identify the source of the problems in the communities and far quicker, and be able to give them answers that they could take away was by opening the door to communication where, you know, I remember, you know, some old school teachings that I had about standing up and speaking was don't let people talk because they're going to derail what you're saying.
Oh, gosh.
There's truth to that. Like we modified what we presented. We learned not to present certain things because you could get sidetracked real fast, and it steers you away from your main focus. So there is some truth to it, but we found it way more fun for everybody to let the audience have some time to speak. You just have to manage it.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to manage it. Again, this is one of the reasons why speakers need to get a lot of practice. Because if you speak once a year or less, and then you get up and you try to manage an audience, you're going to be rusty, to say the least. And managing an audience is a big part of being a speaker. Again, it's not just you standing up there and lecturing for an hour. I mean, you can do that, and many people do, but it's not terribly effective if you're trying to teach or train. So I come from a background of education, academia. I have a master's in education, and I come from a background of education and training. So for me, I tend to spend 2 or 3 days with people a lot of the time. So I'm not a keynoter who goes in and gives a 45-minute super inspiring, entertaining speech and nobody talks and they walk off and it's this, you know, wow, we're all so inspired. This was amazing. I actually have to teach concepts and train people on things, and so there's a lot more that I have to do to keep people engaged with me and keep their attention over the course of a day or a day and a half or whatever it is. And so yes, letting the audience talk and let the audience share, to me, is a huge part of presenting, because everybody has a lifetime of knowledge and experience and skills, and I'm not the person in the room who has all the answers. There are many people in the room who have given presentations and can actually give great advice or suggestions, not only to the other people in the room, but I also learn from my audiences. So to allow your audience to talk, also for me anyway, and I don't know, Lisa, you're another big mouth like me, and I think it was Lisa who said that, because I'm not sure which one is Lisa and Nancy when I hear your voices, but
there's a test after this.
Is that true for both of you?
Yes, we're both big mouths.
I'm just the quieter one.
I learn as I process. I like to talk things through out loud. And so that also oftentimes will help your audience learn about your topic when they can discuss it with somebody next to them or in a group. So, but also you have to be prepared. So I ask my clients, especially the ones who know there might be some controversy or disagreement in the room, or people who they might expect to challenge them. This is another aspect of preparation, but how can you anticipate? How can you anticipate the objections of your audience? What are people going to disagree with? What things are you going to say where the audience is going to say, well, we've already tried that and it's
I've heard that.
Right, that one always comes up. Oh, I tried that, it didn't work. I get that from my clients too. So certainly there are a lot of ways your audience can get sidetracked and you can get sidetracked. But if you anticipate their objections, if you anticipate even the positive questions, and you can somewhat prepare for that. And then I have a really popular blog post called 5 Ways to Say I Don't Know. And my clients love this article because sometimes you get to a point in the presentation or in the Q&A where you literally don't have an answer. That happens all the time. And again, so many people are concerned about being perfect and all of this that they freak out about the Q&A. Well, what if they ask me something I don't know? Well, gosh, doesn't it happen every day in everybody's life? Like, we just don't know everything. So, there are a lot of ways to say I don't know, or to deflect a comment or a question to have somebody come speak to you afterwards, or to say, give me your card and I'll email you with some resources, or, hey, there's this really brilliant expert in the room. I bet they could answer that question. So again,
nice.
it's preparation. Oh, my gosh. I used to teach, so I started my own nonprofit 20-something years ago that doesn't exist anymore, but the nonprofit was about gender equity and Title IX and
nice.
providing equal opportunities for sports and physical activity for women and girls. And I was invited to speak at UC Santa Barbara as part of a conference that they have there every year. And who should come in to sit in on my presentation, but the Title IX coordinator for UCSB. So the person who is the expert on Title IX to the degree that, she takes complaints and escalates them and is the person who knows everything about Title IX. And I was freaked out to see her there. But, right in the very beginning of the presentation, I actually acknowledged her, and I said, hey, I just want to point out, that this person is in the room, and I said, and I looked at her and I said, I hope you'll feel free to jump in. If you want to add to anything that I'm saying, or if you feel like I'm leaving something out, please jump in. Because I really wanted her to know that I appreciated that she was there and appreciated her expertise, and also really point out to the people in the room, this is the person on your campus who you should go to and speak to. And so, but that's because I'm not hung up on being the smartest person in the room or the person who knows everything. I am fully okay with giving referrals and references and passing on information about other experts. That's what people want, you to be real. They want you to be human. They don't want you to pretend you know things when you don't, right?
It's so obvious too, and I think that is part of that, trying to be the perfectionist, and you talk about that a lot in there. And I come from that Virgo side of like everything has to be perfect. What if, and it is really good. You say about it's okay to let go, and actually it feels damn freeing. It's a good thing. Let it flow. But one thing too is some of that perfectionist part does hold hands with fear. And you talk about, you give people these self-reflections, ask this question of yourself throughout the book, which I love because people will read through a book and it's fun. You make a lot of good analogies, from drag queens to, tattoo artists, and, it's fun. But you do need that reminder of like, stop and think. I've just given you a lesson, sit back and think. But a lot of what I picked up was having this positive mindset and the self-confidence that like the positivity is your biggest ally in this.
Yes. It's interesting that you say that. I really just poured myself, my own personality and who I am and what I believe, that's what this book is, because I can't do anything other than that. This is who I am. And I am an incredibly optimistic person. I was just born this way. I can't help it. But I feel that, well, it's not what I feel. I mean, there's research. There's research out there about, there's a ton of research about positive thinking. And if you think about all the things that are going to go wrong in your presentation, it's not necessarily wrong to, again, anticipate what are the things that you specifically fear. And this is an exercise that I have people do when they come to my retreat. And, I ask them, okay, what is the one thing that you worry about the most? What's the one thing that could go wrong? You're going to forget what you were going to say, or you're going to be boring, or this or that or the other thing. And I actually have a couple of exercises about this, but one is making a what if kind of a sheet. Okay, what if this happens? What will I do? If that happens, how will I handle it? So that you've already sort of thought it through. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to completely leave your consciousness forever, but if you can sort of think concern you and worry you in advance, then you can, again, part of preparation, you can feel a little bit more ready and prepared for anything that might go wrong, because things will go wrong, and they always do. So I'm an optimist, and I'm positive, but I've been doing this long enough, 25-plus years, that I know that things are going to go wrong, and it doesn't matter how experienced you are and how long you've been doing this, you're going to do something stupid, always. So having that positive attitude the positive attitude is really more like, I can handle anything that happens. And here's how I'm going to handle it. I'm going to make some plans and prepare. And then anything else that I haven't thought of, I just have to roll with the punches. But you're going to do stupid things. I do it all the time in my presentations. I'm an expert at doing stupid things.
But I mean, it's there's just so many things that you're right. Something is always going to go wrong, and it really does. I mean, from easels falling apart just because you kind of touched it, to the
sock monkeys falling down and having her butt in the air. That looks like a big smile.
And then, to right down to the room that was supposed to have lighting that doesn't, or the drapes are open and half the room is blinded by the sun. And, if any kind of equipment, like if you bring in projectors and stuff, half the time they don't work. They especially don't work if you rely on someone else to do it for you. There's all that. Sometimes, it's like you have to really look at yourself in the mirror. Just make sure you have both your shoes on.
I know.
Just.
Exactly.
Traveling, we actually turn it, because a lot of the places we travel to still do this are these smaller towns. And so we ditched the whole idea of power presentations. We have our basic, this is what we're going to share with you, but we change what we're saying according to the community. And that's something you talk about. It's like know your audience and, research. And, it's changed. Everything we were doing was these seminars changed our business, actually, and understanding these chronic needs of tourism education and hospitality education was, it's a big deal in our country that has to be addressed. And we didn't realize on this until we really started to talk to everyone, and these town hall meetings happened. But we learned, just have a basic easel and make sure you know how to handwrite still, because it was actually more about this communication than being fancy.
Right.
And, Nancy draws funny things anyway. So, but that's the thing is have that. You talk about that in your book about two speakers that you went to one event, and the one lady, her handwriting wasn't so great, but she was more powerful because she had connectivity than the person that walked in all slick with all the the fancy presentation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that is a great example of somebody that I really connected with. I think a lot of my favorite speakers over the course of my life are people who feel more real to me, and who feel like, and this is an overused word, and I haven't really come up with a great word to replace it, but people who feel like they're being really authentic. And another cliche is speaking from the heart. I mean, I wish we could come up with new things for this, and I'm working on it. But really, people who seem to really enjoy being there with you, doing what they do, and it doesn't feel fake, and it doesn't feel contrived. And there, I see I was speaking of keynote speakers earlier. I am in the speaking world, and I'm a member of the National Speakers Association. So I go to these conventions, and I see people speaking, and it's my job to watch people speak. And I do feel that not everybody fits my model of what I like as a speaker. This is what I teach, and not everybody agrees with me, and that's fine. I'll go to an event, and it'll be kind of split down the middle. About half of the speakers are those really polished, rehearsed speakers who there isn't a word out of place, and every step on the stage has been rehearsed, and they do these sort of contrived things with their voices. I mean, I watch those speakers and I cringe, and yet they'll get, a standing ovation. And then there are the others. Then the other half of the speakers who get on stage are just so real, and you just feel like they're talking to you personally and having a conversation with you personally. And they will also get a standing ovation. So I'm not saying my way is the right way for everybody, but for the people I work with, the real the people, not that they're not more real than keynote speakers, but they're the people who have to speak for their job, right? So they get paid to be an architect, but they have to go speak at a conference. I'm working with an architect right now who's speaking on a panel next week. I just finished working with a guy who brokers hotels. He is a broker for hotels, and he had to speak on a panel. These are not people who, number one, are professional speakers, and number two, they're not even people who have a ton of time to practice speaking. So the way I see it, if you're a person who has to speak for your job, or you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to grow your business through speaking, you don't have the time anyway to have these really rehearsed, perfect gestures and facial expressions. You have to get up on stage and just be real and just speak from the heart and use some basic guidelines to structure your presentation and know how you're going to start and how you're going to end and how you're going to engage and those kinds of things. But you don't have the time or the energy or the desire to have one of those super polished canned speeches anyway.
Right. Lisa and I used to work for this company when we first came back to this country, and we worked for the same company but in different stores. And we had to we used to call them the Tuesday rah-rah meetings.
God.
I know. It was like everybody was like,
Barf.
oh, no, not one of those. And we'd have to, I think it was once a month, we'd have to drive like 4 hours to go to some meeting in a big hall, and the management or the owners of the company would get these speakers in, and 9 times out of 10, they would come from the back of the auditorium and run down the aisle with the mic, and everybody would go, oh, no, not one of those.
Yeah.
And those were those like motivational speakers, like get up there and sell, and this is how you do it, and crack a few.
Run on the stage. Remember the run on the stage?
We're like, I'm never doing that. And my boss would say, Nancy, you have to do that. I'm like, I'm not running.
No, we'll get black eyes.
I'm not running.
Nobody needs to see that.
That's not happening. Never.
No, but give us some champagne.
And they're like,
fine.
what if we fire you? Like, well, then you fire me. I'm not running.
Well, there's also, so there's that. And then there's the people that, and we deal with this on the radio shows, that are incredibly smart scientifically, and you cover this really well in your book, because there are people that deal with topics that, suddenly now, a biologist needs to go and speak to people that have no clue about biology, and you hear the word biology or history or something, and it's like, oh, no. And it's kind of a dry topic maybe. Like for me, I'll be fascinated, but, there's the huge population who will not be and have to speak on it. And even on radio shows, there's some people that have the most important knowledge, and we can't put them on the show because it's boring. You know what I mean? And there's topics that are sensitive. There's topics that are important, and how do we get, like, these people need to get it out, that information out there.
Right.
And it has to be fun in some way. Even if it's sensitive, you have to connect. It's not always fun, I suppose, but connect and get to someone's heart.
Right. Well, honestly, I think there's humor in just about everything. When I was sort of getting my public speaking initial training, which was in high school classrooms, talking about domestic violence, I had to bring humor into that. My gosh, you don't want to go in and talk to a classroom of 30, 15 or 16-year-olds and be this heavy, here's why domestic violence is bad, and here's why you need to learn about healthy relationships. God, nobody wants to hear that. So I learned very early on that there's always a way to bring humor into just about any topic. And I do believe there's no such thing as a dry topic. It is a chapter in my book. I have a lot of clients who are engineers, finance people. I went up and spoke. I did a training for Microsoft in September, and they're all computer people. You know, they sit behind their computer all day long. And I'm not saying they're not necessarily people, but a lot of engineers and finance people and scientists are not people. They really like sort of, you know, staying behind the computer and doing their research and making things happen behind the scenes, but they're not necessarily really excited about getting in front of an audience. And I just they'll come to me and they'll say, oh, my topic is so boring. I have to talk about whatever it is, you know, Lyme disease or something. Or I had a doctor one time who had to talk about the Affordable Care Act when it was just coming out. And he's like, oh, who wants to hear this? You know?
Ooh, lots of people.
And, yeah, you know, and he just thought it was getting boring. And the way I see it is the topic itself may be heavy, it may be complex, it may be something that not everybody understands, but the only thing that makes it dry is you. And again, there are so many ways that you can make your topic accessible to your audience. There's so many ways that you can make your content approachable and interesting and intriguing and even funny to your audience. And there's just no excuse. And it's not, the content is not the problem. If your audience gets bored, it's because you're the problem. That's just the way it is. We are responsible for engaging our audiences and making sure they walk away with that knowledge, information, action taking, motivation, whatever it is what result we're trying to get. We have to, it's our job.
And ditch those fancy
very
words.
Very tongue-tied, but yeah.
Ditch the fancy words that nobody knows. Like, you don't try to prove. You make quite a few points of that throughout the book, actually, and it's like, yeah, you know, people. It's like, excuse me, let me get on Google now during your presentation to find out what the hell you're saying. You know, it's like, oh, thank you for belittling us. You know, if we don't know that fancy word that you had to Google to figure out. You know what I mean?
Right. And so many people just do it so they can sound smart and impressive. And I don't even mean that in a mean way, like people are intentionally trying to talk down to their audiences. It's not that they want their audience to feel stupid. They just want themselves to feel and look smart. Right. But it has the effect of making your audience feel stupid. And I think I actually don't remember if I talk about this in the book or not, but adults, we have very sensitive egos. You know, when we were kids, we didn't care, you know, like, you fall down, you get up, you keep going. It's no big deal. And as an adult, our egos are so sensitive. We can't handle any kind of criticism or any, you know, we can't look stupid. We can't look foolish. And so when you're standing up on the stage and you're using all these acronyms that people don't understand and this jargon that people don't understand, I guarantee you that nobody in your audience is going to raise their hand and say, I don't understand that acronym, because they're afraid of looking foolish. They're afraid that everyone around them gets it and they don't want to say anything, and you've lost them. Now, even if one person raises their hand and is brave enough to say, I don't understand your acronym, I do this all the time, by the way, because nothing embarrasses me, and I don't care if I look like a fool. If one person raises their hand, I'm pretty sure there are another 10 people in there who have the same question. So again, it's your job to start right from the beginning. And if you have an acronym, which acronyms are great, I mean, acronyms, we need them, right? We don't always want to say some long thing like Affordable Care Act. So you just explain what the acronym means the first time you use it, and then move on, right? Or if there's some jargony sort of term that people might not understand, explain it the first time you use it. Don't ask the audience, do you understand this? Do you know what this means? Because everyone's going to go, uh-huh. They're going to nod their heads because they don't want to look stupid. It's just human nature.
No, it's true. I do have to ask you, before we get to your champagne toast, what led you to become a public speaker and become a coach and then write your book? I mean, and again, it's such a fun book to read, and it really, you connect with your reader, and I think that's something. Again, you're about connectivity, and I think it's, when you pick up a book, you do want it feels like you're just sitting there telling me, hey, try this out. You need to do this. So there's something for everyone, no matter what you're speaking about, to gain something from this. So everyone's got to get your book. But what led you to take this on as a profession?
Well, I have a background in theater, so I started out when I was a kid and a teenager thinking I wanted to be an actor. Mm-hmm. So I did always like performing. I've always liked performing, singing, dancing, all that kind of stuff. I was on the speech team in high school, so I've always liked speaking, and I like being on stage, and it is one way that I can sort of challenge my shyness. Because I'm not good. I feel like I'm not good. Probably people don't think that because I'm good faking it. But I'm not good with crowds and strangers and whatever. But I am good getting on stage when I can sort of give a performance. So that was always my thing. And then I realized I sucked as an actor, and that was never going to be my career. And so I decided to go to grad school for education because alongside being an actor, I always thought that it would be really great to teach and work with kids. And I've just always liked working with kids. So I thought, well, instead of being an actor, maybe I'll teach kids to act. I'll be like an acting teacher. And, of course, that's stupid. If you're a terrible actor, you don't really want to try to be an acting teacher. But I ended up going to grad school for education. And that sort of all happened at the same time that I was getting into nonprofit work. So through nonprofits, I ended up doing a lot of work with kids. But I was in my nonprofit job, my first big nonprofit job, I was forced to go out and give presentations in high schools. And so this was not my choice to go and do public speaking because, like many people, I was afraid, and my audience was going to be high school students, and I was petrified
they're hard.
of how high school students were going to, how they were going to take me. And so this was the domestic violence job, and I worked there for 6 years and actually created a teen dating violence program so that I could actually go out full time and do speaking because after a year of doing it, I realized how critical it was and how important it was, and that it needed to be a full-time position and not just something I did around my other work. So I created a speaking career for myself within nonprofits, and I ended up doing a lot of group facilitating and community outreach. And then I started my own nonprofit, so I ended up doing a lot of speaking for that. And then I started working at a nonprofit where I was the training director. So I just ended up creating a career for myself that involved a lot of speaking. And then I got laid off 3 times in 4 years from nonprofits.
Yeah, that happens in nonprofits a lot.
Yeah, and I decided, okay, that's not going to work for me anymore. I really need to at least, being an entrepreneur isn't job security, but at least I'm not relying on somebody writing a grant, for my job that then runs out in 2 years and they have to let me go. And so then again, the speaking thing came about because I was in a self-employment training program here in Santa Barbara. And one of my classmates heard me speak because I was still running my own nonprofit at the time. She heard me speak, and she came to me and she said, can you help me do what you do? Like, not how I want to learn how to do public speaking, but I want to learn how to get on stage, be comfortable, be natural, have fun, like what you do. And I thought, wow, I can teach people how to do. This is actually something I know how to do, and I can teach it. Because, I had this background as a performer. I had an education degree. I had been doing speaking at that time for maybe 15 years, and I have a particular style. And she didn't want to know how to just get up and put her hands in the right place. She wanted to know how to be comfortable, relaxed, natural, authentic. And that was the light bulb that went on over my head about 12 years ago.
Nice. Well, congratulations on it, too, because
Thank you.
Good at it. But what is your toast? And being natural is
my
key.
toast.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, my champagne toast cheers to my accountability partners, Amy, Tammy, and Gail. These are the people who keep me on track and make sure that I do what I say I'm going to do in my business, and all of the power women in the National Speakers Association, because these women they have the kind of speaking and training and coaching businesses that I strive to have, and they kick me in the butt and they force me all the time to elevate my mindset and my business.
Right on. I like that. And right now, women need to be out in the forefront doing all kinds of presentations, no matter what industry you're in. It is one of our tools that we can utilize to move forward as just as a gender in these times. I mean, it's time, and politically use it. You know, there's a revolution happening, and
women need to speak up, speak out, run for office, get on stages,
absolutely,
say what needs to be said. Yes, I am all about that.
I was going to say before you go too, one of the things as I started reading your book, I thought, you know, because a lot of times you'll think, oh, you need to do it because suddenly you're speaking in front of a school, or you're speaking, your boss says you need to go speak at this. I don't want to do it, or something. You're in that position. But I also thought that it's so important now. There's so many issues going on that, it gets political. It could be something in your community that you do need to go to a town hall and stand up and say, hey, I want the water tested, or whatever it is, right?
And that's not a bad idea.
No, and by the way, everybody should check that out. Just saying. But if you want to go up against the opposition of whatever you're trying to fix, you've got to be good, because that other side, they've been doing it for years. That is what, and I don't care what government position, I don't care if it's a PTA, anybody in those roles, they've been in that chair for a long time. And if you want to make a change, you've got to present your case, and you might as well do it really effectively and get that connection. And I think that's one of the most important tools of your book, is empowering people to take a stand, because we can get upset, we can rant and rave, we can sign petitions, but if you're going to really go make a change and speak to others, do it so that it actually gets across to people and be successful. So thank you for that. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a true pleasure.
Likewise. You two ladies are so much fun. I am really excited that you invited me. And by the way,
I'm really glad.
It's National Soup Day, and I was already planning on making soup for the Soup Bowl.
Oh, my gosh. I love that. I didn't even say, I'm like, that is classic. That is classic. I like that. Now, are you going to put, like, little dumplings in it? No, just saying, like little balls in there or something. Yeah,
little
meatball soup. You got to have little floaters in there. But everyone, again, the book is by Lisa Braithwaite, and it's called Presenting for Humans: Insights for Speakers on Ditching Perfection and Creating Connection. Great title. Again, you can go to Coach Lisa B, and that's B as the letter itself, and you can go to Amazon or just go to presentingforhumans.com. Thanks so much for joining us. You enjoy the rest of your Super Bowl. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye-bye. Very cool. She does make it fun.
And it needs to be fun.
It needs to be fun. It needs to be fun. Well, we want to thank all of our guests for being part of our show today. Lisa Braithwaite, also Debbie Stone talking about St. Augustine. I'll get that correct. And also Dr. Jackie Ubani sharing the signs of a heart attack. Very important. Especially us women, we hide things very well.
I know, especially when it's matters of the heart.
I know. We're going to be back on, February 7th. We have a brand new show. It's going to be our happy hour show, because we like happy hour. We go from champagne to happy hour. We're going to find out who can ruin your life.
Oh, well, that's easy.
I know. Licensed clinical social worker, family law specialist, and mediator Bill Eddy is joining us to talk about his new book, 5 Types of People Who Can Ruin Your Life, Identifying and Dealing with Narcissists, Sociopaths, and Other High Conflict Personalities.
Yes.
And you've read the book, Nancy.
Yes.
Yeah, and everyone needs to read this kind of thing?
I think it's
timely?
It's very timely, but it's a good idea because, be forewarned, especially in close relationships. To suss it out first, and reading this book helps you kind of categorize and put it into place. I feel unsettled with this person. This will tell you why you feel unsettled with this person, and whether, then you can make the decision if you want to continue or not.
Nice. And then we have, for a little break of social pathology, that's my new word of the day, we have John Durant. He is an incredible guitarist, and he's got his album Parting Is, he's joining us, and it's his first solo album since 2011's Dance of the Shadow Planets, and this is following his 3 acclaimed CDs with his group Burnt Belief, and total solo guitar album. It's beautiful. It is absolutely incredible. So he says he likes to cook and he likes to do cocktails, mixology. So he says we've got a lot in common.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, it'll be a fun conversation. And then talk about a really good business book. This is one of the best. It's called The $1 Million One-Person Business. And I love this book. It's by Forbes.com contributing writer Elaine Pofeld. And she talks about the solo entrepreneurial insights behind the book. And it's really about, how a one-person business can make great money, work the way you like, and have the life you want. And reading the examples, and it's kind of there like almost solopreneurs, it's almost like people don't even recognize they're out there. And there's people creating these very lean businesses and having to work with contractors instead of building a staff. And it used to be like, you don't have a small business unless you hire 10 employees or something.
Oh, I know. You're not
and
even
it's changed.
Yeah.
And people are, the employees are now going, hey, I'm a virtual assistant. I can create my own virtual assistant, operation. And so it's a very interesting change going on in our country on people like just Lisa is exactly the same thing, Lisa Braithwaite, saying, that wasn't so secure. Someone has to write a grant for my future.
Yep.
Why don't I just take care of my future? And that's this kind of mindset. And it's just a fabulous book. So it's going to be a fantastic show. Everyone, again, February 7th, happy hour, and it starts at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, go to bigblendradio.com, and you can connect with our social media and magazines and everything there as well. But we're on Twitter at Big Blend Mag and Facebook under Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine. All right, so we got to close with a little music.
Yes, we do.
So, we've been talking and presenting, doing all this. So I thought that Every Little Word is a good song to close with. It's by our fun and favorite group from Nashville's Upper West Side. Was it the East Side or the West Side? The Loose Hinges. They're so much fun. And it's off of their album, Nothing's Permanent. I love that title. So it's so true. But Every Little Word, just because we were talking about speaking, here it is. And you can keep up with them at theloosehinges.com. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Super Bowl Sunday.